The starship Horizon drifted silently through the darkness of deep space, its sleek metal body reflecting the distant stars. Commander Susan Reeves stood on the observation deck, her green eyes fixed on the vast emptiness beyond the reinforced glass. Her short brown hair was pulled back in a practical style that framed her determined face. They had been traveling for 3 months now, exploring the uncharted regions beyond the Arcturus system. The mission was simple: map the sector and search for habitable planets. But 3 days ago, everything changed. Susan turned as the door slid open behind her. Officer Kimberly Wells entered the room carrying a data pad. Her uniform was slightly wrinkled, suggesting she had been working through the night. "Commander, the alien is awake again," Kimberly said softly. "She keeps asking to speak with you." Susan nodded. "We should not keep our guest waiting." She followed Kimberly through the narrow corridors of the ship to the medical bay, where their unexpected passenger was being kept. The alien had a name: Zorath, from a species called the Lizari. Her body was humanoid, but taller and more slender than most humans, with pale lavender skin that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lights. Her eyes were the most striking feature, large, almond-shaped, and completely silver without pupils. Yet somehow Susan could feel the emotion in those strange eyes. "We found her escape pod drifting near the edge of the nebula," Kimberly reminded Susan as they walked. She was barely alive, life support failing. When they entered the medical bay, Zorath was sitting upright on the examination table. Her long fingers traced the edge of the medical gown they had given her. The translator device on the table beside her hummed softly. "Commander," Zorath said through the translator. Her voice had an otherworldly quality even filtered through the machine. "Thank you for saving my life." Susan approached cautiously. "You said yesterday that you were being pursued. Can you tell us why?" Zorath lowered her head. "My people, the Lizari, are being hunted to extinction by the Krell Empire. We are a peaceful race. Scientists and explorers, we discovered something the Krell want. A planet rich with a mineral we call solarium. You would call it something else. It can power starships for decades with just a small amount, and the Krell attacked your people to get it." Susan concluded. Zorath nodded. "My ship was part of a refugee fleet. We were scattered during the attack. I do not know if any others survived." Susan exchanged glances with Kimberly. The Horizon was not a warship. It carried minimal weapons designed for defense, not battle. If the Krell were as powerful as Zorath suggested, they stood little chance against them. "How far is your homeworld from here?" Susan asked. Zorath gestured to the star map on the wall. "Many light years. But I was not heading home. I was following coordinates to a sanctuary world. My people established it long ago, a hidden place where we could rebuild if disaster ever struck." Susan studied the alien carefully. The Horizon had its own mission parameters set by Earth Command, but she could not ignore a refugee in need, especially one whose entire species faced extinction. "Show us these coordinates," she said finally. "We will help you reach this sanctuary." Zorath's silver eyes widened. "You would risk yourselves for me." A stranger from another world, Kimberly stepped forward. "It's what humans do. We help those in need." The alarm blared, suddenly cutting through their conversation. The overhead lights shifted to red, and Chief Engineer Maya Patel's voice came over the intercom. "Commander, to the bridge immediately. Unknown vessel approaching fast, weapon signature detected." Susan sprinted toward the bridge with Kimberly close behind. They found Maya at the tactical station, her dark fingers flying over the controls. Her normally calm face was tight with worry. On screen, Susan ordered. The main display activated, showing a massive ship approaching. Its design was unlike anything in the human database, angular and threatening, with weapon ports visible along its hull. The Krell. Zorath whispered from behind them. She had followed them to the bridge. "They found me." "How?" Susan demanded. "We are light years from where we found your pod." Zorath shook her head. "They must have tracked my escape pod's energy signature. They are relentless hunters." The communication system chimed. The Krell ship was hailing them. Susan took a deep breath and nodded to Maya to open the channel. The screen flickered and revealed their adversary, The Krell commander was reptilian with scaled skin and vertical pupils and yellow eyes. His uniform was ornate, suggesting high rank. Human vessel. The alien said, his voice deep and threatening. You have something that belongs to us. The Lissari female surrender. Her immediately. Susan stepped forward. This is Commander Susan Reeves of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. The person you seek is under our protection, the Krell commander hissed. The protection of primitives means nothing. The Lissari are our property. Surrender her or be destroyed. You have 1 cycle to comply. The transmission ended abruptly. Maya turned to Susan. Their weapons are powering up, Commander. Our shields won't hold against that kind of firepower. Susan looked at Zorath. How close are we to the sanctuary coordinates? 2 days at maximum speed, Zorath replied. But the Krell ship is faster than yours. They will catch us before we arrive. Susan considered their options. They could not outrun the Krell nor outgun them, but perhaps they could outsmart them, Maya, she said, turning to her engineer. Remember that nebula we passed yesterday? How far back is it? About 6 hours at full reverse. Maya calculated, but why would we go back? The nebula contains compounds that interfere with sensors, Susan explained. If we can reach it, we might be able to hide long enough to modify our engines. Kimberly nodded, understanding dawning on her face. The experimental pulse drive. Exactly, Susan said. We have been testing it for short jumps, but if we can amplify the power, we might be able to make it to the sanctuary. In 1 leap. Maya frowned. But that could burn out our engines completely. We might be stranded. It's better than being destroyed, Susan replied. Set course for the nebula maximum speed and begin preparations for the pulse drive modifications. The Horizon changed course, accelerating away from the Krell ship. As expected, the larger vessel turned to follow them. Its weapons fired, a warning shot that passed just over their hull on. The bridge the crew worked frantically. Maya coordinated with her engineering team to modify the experimental drive, while Kimberly plotted their course through the nebula to maximize sensor interference. Zorath worked alongside them, sharing her knowledge of Krell technology to help them evade detection. Susan watched the tactical display as the distance between the ships slowly decreased. The Krell were gaining on them. 4 hours to the nebula became 3, then 2. The Krell ship fired again this time, grazing their rear shield strength at 60%. Maya reported, We can't take many more hits like that. 1 hour from the nebula. Susan watched as Zorath approached her. The alien's silver eyes seemed to glow in the red emergency lighting. Why are you doing this? Zorath asked. Your people have no part in this conflict. You could surrender me. Save yourselves. Susan shook her head. Humans don't abandon people in need. It's not who we are. The ship shuddered as another blast struck them. Shields at 40%. Maya called out, engine temperature rising. We're pushing them beyond safety limits. Hold together, Susan whispered to her ship. Just a little longer. The nebula's colorful gases appeared, on their view screen growing larger as they approached. Its swirling clouds of dust and ionized particles would soon hide them from the Krell sensors, if they could just reach it in time. Another hit rocked the ship, throwing crew members against their stations. Sparks flew from a console near the back of the bridge shields. Critical. Maya shouted, One more direct hit, and they're gone. Susan gripped her command chair. We only need a few more minutes. The Horizon plunged into the nebula. The view screen, filling with swirling purple and blue gases. The Krell ship followed, firing blindly into the clouds. Now Susan ordered cut main engines and switched to maneuvering thrusters. Only. Silent running. The ship's engines went quiet. Momentum carried them deeper, into the nebula as they drifted on minimal power. The Krell ship continued firing its weapons, cutting through the gases around them, but missing the Horizon by increasingly wider margins. For now they were safe. But time was running out. The Krell would methodically search the nebula until they found them. Their only hope was Maya's modifications to the pulse drive. Susan watched as her crew worked against the clock to save a species they had only just discovered. She didn't know if they would. succeed, but she knew they had to try. It was the human thing to do. Deep within the swirling purple nebula, the horizon floated silently. The ship's systems were running on minimal power to avoid detection by the Krell vessel that hunted them. In the engine room, Maya worked frantically with her team to modify the experimental pulse drive. Their only hope of escape. Commander Susan stood on the bridge monitoring the Krell ship's movements through the nebula. The enemy vessel was moving in a grid pattern, methodically searching for them. It was only a matter of time before they were found. Zorath entered the bridge, her lavender skin almost glowing in the dim emergency lighting. The alien moved with a grace that seemed otherworldly despite her obvious exhaustion. How much longer, Susan asked, as Zorath approached. The Lycery tilted her head in a gesture that had become familiar. Your engineer Maya is remarkable. She has adapted the principles of my people's technology faster than I thought possible. A few more hours, perhaps. Susan frowned. We may not have a few hours. The Krell are getting closer to our position with each pass as if to emphasize her point. The tactical display beeped softly, showing the enemy ship changing course again. This time it was heading directly toward their hiding place. They have detected something, Susan whispered. Alert engineering. Prepare for emergency jump. The ship hummed to life as systems were brought back online. Across the horizon, crew members rushed to their stations preparing for either escape or battle. Kimberly took her place at the navigation console, her fingers dancing across the controls. Ready for evasive maneuvers, Kimberly reported, her voice steady, despite the danger. Before Susan could respond, the communication system activated. The Krell ship was hailing them. Again. Put them through. Susan ordered, standing tall. The screen flickered, showing the reptilian commander. His yellow eyes seemed to glow with malice. We grow tired of this game. Human, the Krell said. We have detected your energy signature. You cannot hide from us. Surrender the Lysari now, or we will destroy your vessel. Susan glanced at Zorath, who stood just out of the camera's view. The alien gave a slight shake of her head. I need more time, the translator whispered. Zorath's actual voice too soft for the communication system to pick up. Susan turned back to the screen. We are experiencing engine difficulties, Commander. We need time to make repairs. The Krell hissed. That is not my concern. You have one final chance. Surrender the Lysari. The communication ended abruptly, their powering weapons. Kimberly reported Susan made a quick decision. Take us deeper into the nebula maximum thrusters. We need to buy more time. The horizon lurched forward, diving deeper into the colorful gases that surrounded them. The Krell ship followed, firing energy weapons that cut through the nebula like lightning. The first shot missed. The second grazed their port side shields, weakening them further, shields at 30%, and falling. A crew member called out. Susan opened the ship-wide communication channel. Maya, how close are we? Almost there. Maya's voice came back, tense with concentration. The pulse drive is at 80% calibration, but the power couplings keep overloading. We need at least 20 more minutes. We don't have 20 minutes, Susan replied. Just get it working, we will handle the rest. Another blast from the Krell ship hit them directly. Alarms blared throughout the horizon as damage reports flooded in. Shields were nearly gone and hull. Breaches were reported on 2 decks. Kimberly looked up from her station, eyes wide with fear. Commander, they are preparing to fire again. This one will finish. Us? Susan turned to Zorath. The aliens, silver eyes, were fixed on the view screen where the Krell ship loomed before them. Do your people have any weaknesses? Susan asked desperately. Anything we can use against them? Zorath hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The Krell evolved on a world with minimal electromagnetic radiation. They are sensitive to certain energy frequencies, particularly in the ultraviolet spectrum. It disrupts their neural pathways temporarily. Susan spun toward the tactical station. Modify our sensor array to emit maximum UV radiation on all frequencies. Now. The crew worked, quickly converting the horizon sensors into a makeshift weapon. Just as the Krell ship prepared to fire again, they activated the ultraviolet burst. On the view screen, they could see the effect immediately. The Krell ship drifted off course. Its weapons, powering down the UV radiation, had disabled their crew temporarily. That buys us time, Susan said. But not much. Engineer Maya, this is our chance. How much longer for the pulse? Drive 5 minutes. Maya's voice came back. Maybe less. Make it 2. Susan ordered, and prepare for immediate jump to the sanctuary coordinates. The ship shuddered as power was redirected to the experimental drive. Susan could feel the vibrations through the deck plating beneath her feet. The horizon was being pushed beyond its design limits, but they had no choice. The Krell ship was already showing signs of recovery, its systems coming back online one by one. 2 minutes passed, feeling like hours. Susan watched as the enemy vessel slowly turned back toward them, its weapon ports beginning to glow as they powered up pulse drive ready. Maya called through the communication system. But I can't guarantee it will work. We could end up anywhere or nowhere at all. Susan looked at Zorath. The Lissari stood tall, despite everything, her silver eyes reflecting the stars visible through the nebula clouds. Your people risked everything to help a stranger. Zorath said softly. My species would call that foolish. But perhaps it is also your greatest strength. Susan smiled grimly. Sometimes, the foolish survive when the cautious perish. She turned to Kimberly, set coordinates for the Lissari sanctuary. Prepare for pulse jump. The Krell ship fired its energy weapon, cutting through space toward them. Now Susan shouted. The experimental pulse drive activated, enveloping the horizon in a field of crackling energy. For a moment, everything seemed frozen in time. The Krell weapon, the swirling nebula, the stars beyond. Then reality itself appeared to fold around them. The ship lurched forward, not through space, but somehow through the fabric of space-time itself. The sensation was disorienting. Crew members clung to their stations as the horizon shuddered violently. Systems overloaded in cascading failures as the experimental drive pushed the ship's technology beyond its limits. Then suddenly everything stopped. The view screen cleared, showing unfamiliar stars. The nebula and the Krell ship were gone. Did it work? Susan asked, struggling to steady herself against the command chair. Kimberly checked the navigation system, her expression shifting from confusion to amazement. The coordinates match. We are in the Lissari sanctuary system. At least I think we are. The stars don't match any. In our database, Zorath moved to the view screen, her slender fingers touching the glass as if reaching for the stars beyond. Yes, she whispered. This is it. The sanctuary. Susan allowed herself a moment of relief, but it was short-lived as damage reports continued to flood. In Maya appeared on the bridge, her uniform singed and her face streaked with soot. The pulse drive is completely burned out, Commander, she reported. And the main engines are offline. We have maneuvering thrusters only. And life support is damaged. We have maybe 3 days before it fails completely. Susan nodded, understanding the situation. We need to find a place to land, then make repairs if possible. Zorath turned from the view screen. There is a habitable planet in this system, the sanctuary world. It is not far. Kimberly scanned the system. The Lissari was right. A planet appeared on their sensors. Earth-sized with a breathable atmosphere, just 2 hours away at their current speed-set course. Susan ordered. Then she turned to Zorath. What will we find there? Zorath hesitated. I cannot say for certain. The sanctuary was established generations ago to be a refuge in times of need. But I do not know if any of my people reached it before us. The horizon limped toward the planet using the last of its power. Their situation was dire, but they had escaped. The Krell, at least for now. As the planet grew larger on the view screen, Susan watched Zorath. The alien's expression was a mixture of hope and fear. We will help you find your people, Susan promised. If they are here, we will find them. If not, we will help you make this sanctuary. A home. Zorath looked at her with those strange silver eyes. Why do you continue to help me? Your ship is damaged. Your crew is at risk. You could have surrendered me to save yourselves. Susan smiled. Because that's who we are. We don't abandon people, and we certainly don't surrender them to genocidal reptilians. For the first time since they had rescued her, Zorath made a sound that the translator identified as laughter. It was musical and light. Humans are strange, Zorath said. But perhaps the galaxy needs your strangeness. As the horizon approached the planet, they detected no obvious signs of civilization, no cities, no technology, no indications that any Lissari had reached the sanctuary before them. We are entering the atmosphere, Maya reported. Brace for turbulence. Our stabilizers are barely functioning. The ship shook violently as they descended. Through clouds and wind, the horizon fought its way down toward the surface. The crew worked frantically to maintain control as systems continued to fail one after another. Susan gripped her command chair, watching as the ground rushed up to meet them. They were coming in too fast. The landing would be rough, but they would survive. They had to survive. Not just for themselves, but for Zorath and her people. The future of an entire species might depend on what they found on this world, and Susan was determined to see that future realized no matter what challenges awaited them on the surface below. Months passed as the humans and Zorath worked to restore the sanctuary city. Susan stood on the balcony of what had become their central command building, watching as the sun rose over their new home. The once ruined structures now gleamed with renewed purpose. Many buildings had fully repaired themselves, their crystalline components regenerating, according to ancient programming. Maya approached carrying a data pad. Her dark hair, now longer than regulation length, was tied back with a strip of local fabric. The crew had adapted their uniforms using materials from the sanctuary, blending Earth fashion with alien necessity. The deep-level scans are complete, Maya reported. There's definitely something massive beneath the central plaza. Just as the holograms indicated, some kind of chamber or vault. But the energy readings are unlike anything we've seen before. Susan nodded. We need to find a way in. The hologram mentioned activation points requiring both Lysari and Tilasian biology. Zorath believes she has located the entrance, Maya continued. She wants to try accessing it today. The central plaza had once been beautiful, according to the historical holograms they had activated, a gathering place for the Lissari with fountains and gardens. Now it was a flat expanse of stone with intricate patterns carved into its surface. Patterns that glowed faintly when Zorath walked across them. Kimberly had established a perimeter around the area, setting up monitoring equipment to record any changes. The rest of the Horizon crew watched from a safe distance as Zorath and Susan approached the center of the plaza. This is it, Zorath said, pointing to a circular design in the stone. Here the patterns converge. The writing speaks of the joining of two worlds to access the sanctuary. Susan examined the carving. It depicted two hands, one clearly Lissari, with its long fingers and distinctive shape. The other, smaller with 5 digits instead of 6, a Talasian hand, or close enough to human. To make no difference, what do we do? Susan asked. Zorath knelt beside the carving. There are 2 impression points. Here and here she placed her lavender hand in one of the depressions. It fit perfectly. The stone beneath her palm began to glow with soft blue light. Susan took a deep breath and placed her hand in the other depression. For a moment nothing happened. Then warmth spread through her palm, up her arm. A tingling sensation that was not unpleasant but definitely alien. The entire plaza began to hum. The stone patterns illuminated one after another, following the complex design outward from the central circle. The crew backed away as the ground trembled slightly. The stone beneath Susan and Zorath shifted, dropping several inches, then sliding apart, revealing a spiraling staircase that descended into darkness. Zorath looked at Susan, her silver eyes reflecting the blue light from below. We have done it. The sanctuary heart is open. They gathered equipment and formed a team to explore the underground chamber. Susan, Maya, Zorath, and 2 security officers. The stairs descended deep into the planet, each step lighting as they approached and dimming as they passed. The air grew cooler but remained breathable. The walls were lined with the same crystalline material that formed much of the city. But here it was more refined, more purposeful. After descending for what seemed like hundreds of meters, they reached a vast chamber. The ceiling arched high above them, supported by columns that pulsed with internal light. In the center of the room stood a structure that defied easy description, part machine, part organic. It resembled a massive tree made of crystal and metal, with branches that reached toward the ceiling, and roots that disappeared into the floor. Zorath approached it slowly. Reverence in every step, the sanctuary heart, she whispered. The legends speak of it. A living machine created by my ancestors and the Talesians. It was said to contain the knowledge of both species, and weapons to fight the Krell. Susan followed, keeping a respectful distance. The structure hummed with power. Occasional pulses of energy traveled along its branches like sap flowing through a tree. What does it do exactly? Susan asked. Zorath shook her head. I am not certain. The legends say it contains many secrets, technologies beyond our understanding, defenses against our enemies, perhaps even a way to communicate with other sanctuaries, if any survived. Maya was scanning the structure. With modified equipment, her expression shifting between confusion and excitement. These readings are incredible, Commander. This thing is generating more power than a small star, but containing it somehow. Its technology, centuries beyond Earth science, maybe millennia as they explored the chamber. They discovered control interfaces similar to those they had found in the city above. Zorath was able to activate some of them, revealing holographic displays filled with Lissari script. This will take time to translate, Zorath said. But I recognize some terms. This appears to be a defensive system in this. She pointed to another display. A communication array designed to reach across vast distances. Hope flared in Susan's heart. If they could communicate across interstellar distances, they might be able to contact Earth or search for other Lissari survivors. They spent hours in the chamber documenting everything. Maya recorded the technology, hoping to understand even a fraction of its function. The AO. Security officers mapped the space, finding additional rooms branching off from the main chamber storage areas, filled with unknown devices, living quarters designed for both Lissari and Talesians' research facilities, with equipment still functioning. After thousands of years, as they prepared to return to the surface, Zorath paused before the central structure, placing her hand on one of its crystal branches. There is something else here, she said softly. Something waiting. Before Susan could ask what she meant, the entire chamber shifted. The crystal tree pulsed with sudden intensity, and a new hologram formed before them. Unlike the recorded messages they had seen before, this projection seemed aware. It turned toward them, studying them with glowing eyes. Genetic recognition confirmed, the hologram said. Its voice resonant and multi-toned. Lissari and Talesian biosignatures detected. Sanctuary protocol activated. The hologram shifted, taking the form of a Lissari elder dressed in formal attire. I am the guardian of Sanctuary 7. My consciousness was stored here to guide those who might return. I have waited 5,342 cycles for this moment. Zorath stepped forward, her voice filled with awe. You are alive. Not alive, the guardian corrected. A consciousness preserved, an echo of who I once was. But I retain all knowledge of the sanctuary and its purpose. Susan approached cautiously. We are not Talesians, she admitted. We are humans from the planet Earth. Our biology is similar, but we are a different species. The guardian studied her, its holographic eyes seeing more than should be possible. Yes, I can see the differences, but the compatibility is sufficient. The sanctuary accepts you. The genetic key has been turned. The sanctuary's full capabilities are now available to you. Maya could hardly contain her excitement. What capabilities exactly? The guardian gestured, and the chamber filled with new holograms, star maps, weapon designs, communication systems, shield technology. All of it accessible. All of it theirs to use. We created this sanctuary as a seed. The guardian explained. A place where our civilizations could be reborn if the worst happened. The Krell destroyed the Talesian homeworld and nearly eradicated the Lysari. But we prepared. We created sanctuaries throughout the galaxy, each containing the knowledge and technology needed to rebuild, and eventually to fight back. Susan looked at the wealth of information surrounding them. This is incredible, but we are few. The crew of my ship Zorath. We cannot rebuild two civilizations. The Guardian seemed to smile, though its holographic face made the expression somewhat unsettling. You are not alone. The activation of the sanctuary. Heart has sent a signal, a beacon that will guide others here. Other Lysari who escaped the Krell, other sanctuaries if they exist. Zorath's silver eyes widened. My people might still live. It is probable the Guardian confirmed the Lysari were scattered, not exterminated. Some would have reached other sanctuaries. Some would have found refuge on distant worlds. The beacon will call them home. Hope and fear warred in Susan's heart. The beacon might bring Lysari survivors to them, but it might also alert the Krell to their location. The Guardian sensed her concern. The beacon is encoded. Only Lysari technology can detect it. But you are right to be cautious. The Krell are patient hunters. They will not have abandoned their search. It is only a matter of time before they find this place, then we need to be ready. Susan said. The Guardian nodded. That is why the sanctuary exists, to prepare for their coming. The weapon system shield technology. Everything you need to defend this world is here, but it will require both, your peoples working together. Human adaptability and courage combined with Lysari knowledge and wisdom. Susan looked at Maya, at the security officers, and at Zorath. They had crashed on this planet by accident, refugees from a battle they had never intended to fight. But now they stood in the heart of an ancient legacy. The combined knowledge of two civilizations was in their hands, a chance to make a difference on a galactic scale. We will be ready, Susan promised. We may not be the allies you expected, but we will not abandon this sanctuary or its purpose. The Guardian studied her for a long moment, then its holographic face softened. You are not Talasian, but perhaps you are what the sanctuary needed after all. Sometimes the universe provides unexpected answers to ancient prayers. The horizon crashed through the final layer of clouds, plummeting toward the surface of the sanctuary planet. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship as Susan shouted orders, trying to maintain some control over their descent fire retro thrusters. Full power. She commanded, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of her chair. The ship shuddered as the thrusters engaged, slowing their fall. But not enough. The ground rushed up to meet them, a vast green landscape dotted with purple vegetation and gleaming blue lake sprays. For impact, Kimberly called, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. The horizon struck the ground with tremendous force. Metal screamed as the hull scraped across rocky terrain. Trees snapped beneath the ship's mass as it carved a deep furrow into the planet. Everything inside the vessel was thrown into chaos. Crew members were tossed from their stations. Equipment tumbled through corridors. Lights flickered and died. When the ship finally came to rest, Susan found herself on the floor of the bridge. The emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow over the scene. Maya was helping Kimberly up from where she had fallen. Zorath stood by the view screen, seemingly unharmed, her natural balance having kept her upright through the crash status report. Susan ordered, pulling herself to her feet, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. Maya checked the nearest functioning console, hull integrity at 60% life support, operating on emergency power engines, completely offline, communicating systems damaged but repairable. Susan nodded. How long to get basic systems back online? Maya frowned. 3 days, maybe 4 for essential systems, but the engines. She shook her head. The damage is too extensive. We don't have the parts to repair them. Susan understood what that meant. They were stranded on this alien world, at least until they could find a way to signal for help. But the nearest human outpost was light years away. It could be months or even years before a rescue mission reached them, if one was ever sent at all. The crew gathered in what remained of the mess hall. The ship had landed on its side, forcing them to adapt to the new orientation of their surroundings. Doorways had become climbing shafts. Corridors were now awkward sloping tunnels. But at least they were alive. Zorath stood by a damaged window looking out at the sanctuary planet. Her silver eyes reflected the strange purple plants that surrounded their crash site. "Is this what you expected?" Susan asked, joining her. The Lysari shook her head. "It is different from the historical records. The vegetation has evolved significantly in the centuries since this world was chosen. But the atmosphere composition is correct. The gravity slightly lighter than my homeworld as planned. Have you detected any signs of your people?" Susan asked softly. Zorath turned her lavender face solemn. "No, though my personal scanner has limited range. The sanctuary city should be located on the northern continent. According to the ancient maps, it would have protected buildings, food production systems, technology, to rebuild our civilization." Maya approached them, wiping grease from her hands. "We might be able to boost the ship's sensors enough to scan the northern continent, but it will take time and power is limited." Susan nodded. "Make it a priority. We need to know if there are other Lysari here, or any other sentient life for that matter." For 3 days, the crew worked to repair the damaged ship. Some systems were brought back online: sensors, communication arrays, enough life support to maintain habitable conditions, but the engines remained beyond repair. They truly were stranded. On the morning of the 4th day, Susan organized an expedition. They would travel north on foot to search for the sanctuary city Zorath had described. She selected a small team: Maya for her technical expertise, Kimberly to navigate, and 2 security officers. Zorath, of course, would lead them. The alien planet was beautiful, but strange. The purple vegetation released spores that sparkled in the sunlight. Small creatures similar to Earth insects buzzed among the strange flowers. The gravity was slightly less than Earth standard, making each step feel bouncy and light. They traveled for 2 days following Zorath's directions. The landscape gradually changed from flat plains to rolling hills. The purple plants gave way to towering structures that resembled trees, but with crystalline trunks that hummed when touched on. The evening of the 2nd day, they crested a hill and saw it in the valley below. The sanctuary city. It was not what they had expected. Instead of a technological marvel, they found ruins. Stone structures covered in the same crystalline growth that formed the strange trees. Broken domes and collapsed towers spoke of a civilization. Long abandoned, Zorath stood motionless, staring at the ruins, her silver eyes wide with disbelief. "This cannot be," she whispered. The sanctuary was supposed to be waiting, ready for our arrival. Susan placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. "We should investigate. Maybe there are answers down there." They descended into the valley, approaching the ruined city with caution. The security officers took the lead, weapons ready, though Susan had ordered them to fire only if directly threatened. The structures grew larger as they approached, revealing intricate carvings and what appeared to be writing etched into the walls. Zorath traced the symbols with her slender fingers. "This is Lysari script," she confirmed, "ancient but recognizable. It tells the history of my people." And she paused, reading further. "It speaks of those who came before." "What does that mean?" Susan asked before Zorath could answer. Maya called to them from inside one of the structures, her voice echoing with excitement. "Commander, you need to see this." They hurried inside, finding Maya standing before a wall covered in more of the Lysari writing. But this section was different. The script was accompanied by images, depictions of tall, slender beings with lavender skin working alongside shorter figures, humans. Susan gasped, recognizing the proportions despite the stylized nature of the carvings. "Not humans." Zorath corrected, her voice filled with wonder. "But similar a species called the Talasians. The carvings say they helped build this sanctuary thousands of years ago." Maya pointed to another section of the wall. "This looks like a control panel of some kind." Zorath approached, placing her hand on the center of the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light began to spread from beneath her palm, illuminating the entire chamber. The ruins around them hummed with energy as dormant systems activated. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. A Lysari male, his image flickering with age. "Greetings, survivors," the hologram said. "I am Keeper Valorn. This message has waited 5,000 cycles for Lysari to return." To the sanctuary, Zorath stepped forward, mesmerized by the image of her ancestor. People were scattered by the first Krell invasion. The hologram continued, but we established sanctuaries throughout the galaxy. This is Sanctuary 7. The Talasians helped us build it before their civilization fell to the same enemy. The hologram gestured and the image changed, showing a map of the city as it once was. The sanctuary city is not dead, merely dormant, waiting for Lissari to return. Place your hands on the activation points throughout the city to awaken all systems. The sanctuary will provide everything needed to rebuild. Zorath turned to Susan, her silver eyes shining with tears of joy. They planned for everything, even our near extinction. The sanctuary still lives. For the next several days, they explored the city. Following the hologram's instructions, they activated long dormant systems. With each new activation, more of the city came to life. Buildings repaired themselves. Vegetation was cleared from important structures. Energy began to flow through conduits that had lain dormant for millennia. Week after discovering the city, Maya made another breakthrough. She had managed to adapt Lissari technology to repair some of the Horizon systems, including the communication array. We can send a signal now, she explained, to Susan. But its range is limited. It might be years before anyone from Earth receives it. Susan nodded. It was better than nothing. The crew had already begun to adapt to life on the sanctuary world. The planet was habitable. The city provided shelter, and the native vegetation proved to be mostly edible for humans after proper preparation. They could survive here. More importantly, they had fulfilled their promise to Zorath. The Lissari now had a chance to rebuild as they stood on a high tower overlooking the awakening city. Zorath spoke softly. The Krell will come eventually. They are relentless. They will never stop hunting my kind. Susan watched as the sunset painted the crystalline structures in shades of gold and amber. We will be ready for them. Zorath turned to her. Your ship is damaged beyond repair. Your weapons few. Your crew small. How can you stand against an empire that has destroyed entire civilizations? Susan smiled. The same way humanity has always faced impossible odds. With ingenuity, courage, and determination. And she gestured to the city around them. We have time to prepare. The sanctuary has technology. We can adapt. The ruins contain knowledge we can use. And there is something else. Zorath said. The carvings spoke of weapons, hidden deep beneath the city, designed to fight the Krell, but requiring both Lissari and Talasian biology to activate. Susan considered this. The Talasians are gone, but you said humans are similar. Zorath nodded. Our scans confirm it. Your DNA has certain similarities. To Talasian genetic patterns, it might be possible. Hope bloomed in Susan's heart. They had crashed on an alien world, light years from Earth. They were stranded with minimal resources and faced the eventual return of a genocidal enemy. But they had found something unexpected, a purpose, a chance to make a difference on a galactic scale. A year passed since the crash of the Horizon. The sanctuary city now gleamed under the alien sun, fully restored to its ancient glory. The human crew had integrated the technology they found with their own, creating defenses that protected their new home. Guided by the Guardian and Zorath, they had prepared for the inevitable day when the Krell would find them. Susan stood in the command center watching the holographic display that showed the star system. Around her, the crew worked at stations that blended human and Lissari technology. Maya had become their chief engineer, mastering alien systems with remarkable speed. Kimberly led the defense grid operations, coordinating the planetary shield network. The first response to the sanctuaries beacon had come 3 months after its activation, a small Lissari scout ship carrying 17 survivors. They had been hiding in a remote system for years after escaping the destruction of their colony. More followed, a freighter with 42 refugees, a research vessel with 23. A total of 112 Lissari had found their way to the sanctuary. Each arrival brought new skills, new knowledge, and renewed hope, but also greater risk. Each ship that found them increased the chance that the Krell would detect their presence. Zorath entered the command center, her silver eyes immediately finding Susan. The two had grown close over the months, their friendship deepening through shared challenges and triumphs. The new defense grid is online, Zorath reported. The southern continent is now fully protected. Susan nodded. Good. The orbital platforms. Nearly complete. Maya answered from her station. 2 more days and the entire planet will be surrounded by our defense network. Nothing will reach the surface without our knowledge. Susan wished she could feel as confident as Maya sounded. The Krell Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their technology was advanced, their numbers vast. The sanctuary was powerful, but a single planet against an empire. The odds were not in their favor. The alarm sounded so suddenly that several crew members jumped. Kimberly rushed to the sensor station, her fingers flying across the controls. Multiple ships entering the system, she reported, her voice tight. Long-range sensors detect 20 No-30 vessels. Krell configuration. Susan felt her heart sink. The moment they had prepared for had arrived sooner than expected. The Krell had found them. Activate the defense grid, she ordered. Alert. All sectors begin evacuation protocols for non-combatants to the underground chambers. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as orders were relayed throughout the city. The Lysari moved with practiced efficiency, escorting the youngest and oldest of their kind to the safety of the underground sanctuary. The human crew took their battle stations. How long? Zorath asked. Kimberly checked the sensors. 2 hours, maybe less, before they reach orbit. Susan nodded. That's enough time to complete preparations. Send the signal. Maya activated the communication array. A pulse of energy shot from the city center, racing outward faster than light. A desperate call for help to any who might be listening. The signal would take weeks to reach Earth. Much too late to help in this battle. But there were others closer. Other sanctuaries that might have survived, other allies who might respond. The Guardian appeared beside Susan, its holographic form shimmering. All systems are at full capacity. It reported the sanctuary is ready. On the holographic display they watched as the Krell fleet approached. A massive warship led the formation, flanked by smaller vessels. They moved with mechanical precision, spreading out to surround the planet. The Krell are hailing us, Kimberly reported. Susan straightened her uniform on screen. The display changed, showing the interior of the Krell flagship. Its commander was larger than the one they had encountered a year ago. His scaled skin darker, his yellow eyes, cold with malice. Humans. The Krell commander hissed, his voice translated by their systems. You protect Lysari vermin on a forbidden world. This planet belongs to the Krell Empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Resist and you will suffer. Before the end, Susan stepped forward, facing the alien without flinching. This planet is under the protection of both humanity and the Lysari. We do not recognize Krell authority here. We will not surrender. The Krell commander hissed again, showing rows of sharp teeth. You are few, we are many. Your defenses cannot stand against the might of our fleet. This world will burn. The Lysari will be exterminated, and you humans will learn the price of defiance. The communication ended abruptly. They will attack in coordinated waves, Maya said, reviewing tactical data. First targeting our orbital defenses, then ground installations, standard Krell tactics, according to Lysari records. Susan nodded. Shield status at maximum power, Zorath reported. But they won't hold indefinitely against a sustained assault weapon systems. Kimberly charged, and targeting, Maya answered. The sanctuary provided better weapons than we expected. But still, the odds. Susan cut her off with a raised hand. I don't want to hear about the odds. We knew this day would come. We prepared for it. Now we fight. The Krell fleet moved into attack formation. The lead warship fired the first shot, a massive energy beam that struck the planetary shield. The entire city shook as the shield absorbed and dispersed the energy. Return fire, Susan ordered. Target their lead ship from the surface of the planet. Energy weapons activated, firing precise beams that cut through space. The Krell warship evaded most, but one struck its port side, cutting through its shields and scoring the hull. First blood to us, Maya said with grim satisfaction. The battle had begun. For an hour they exchanged fire, the Krell fleet bombarding the planet, the sanctuary defenses returning fire. 2 Krell ships had been destroyed. Their orbital platforms had suffered damage but held sections of the planetary shield fluctuated, but remained intact. Then the Krell changed tactics. Smaller ships broke through the defensive screen, landing troops on the northern continent away. From the city, ground forces detected, Kimberly reported. They are deploying some kind of drilling equipment. They are trying to bypass the shields. Susan realized, target those landing sites. The battle expanded, ground forces now engaged on the surface. The Lasari who could fight joined human security officers defending their new home. The Krell advanced relentlessly, their reptilian troops moving with cold efficiency. In the command center, Susan watched the tactical displays with growing concern. Despite their preparations, despite the sanctuary's technology, they were being overwhelmed. The Krell simply had too many ships, too many soldiers. The shields were weakening, power reserves dropping. Ground forces were being pushed back, casualties. Mounted Zorath stood beside her, silver eyes fixed on the displays. "We cannot win this battle," she said softly. Not alone. Susan knew she was right. They had fought well, but the outcome seemed inevitable. The Krell would break through their defenses. The sanctuary would fall, and with it the last hope for the Lasari species. The Guardian appeared, its holographic form flickering as power was diverted to defense systems. "There is one option that remains," it said. "One final defense protocol." Susan turned to face it. What protocol? "The sanctuary's heart contains enough energy to create a pulse wave," the Guardian explained. "It would disable all technology within this star system. For approximately 1 planetary rotation, nothing would function. No weapons, no ships, no shields, and no life support." Susan added, "Our own systems would fail as well." The Guardian nodded. "But organic life would be unharmed. Only technology would be affected. When systems reset, the advantage would be yours. The Krell would be vulnerable. Maya approached. We could prepare hide weapons that don't require power. Target Krell ships while they're disabled. It could work," Susan admitted. "But the risk? The sanctuary itself might be damaged permanently." Zorath placed a hand on Susan's arm. "We have no choice. If we do nothing, the Krell will destroy everything." Susan looked around the command center at the faces of her crew, at the Lasari who had found refuge here. They had come so far, fought so hard. Was this the end of their journey, or just another beginning? Before she could decide, the sensor station beeped urgently. "New contacts," Kimberly called out, entering the system. At incredible speed, not Krell configuration. The holographic display shifted, showing a new fleet approaching, dozens of ships, of unfamiliar design. They moved with grace and purpose, cutting through space at speeds the horizon could never have achieved. "We're being hailed," Kimberly reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "It's coming from the lead ship." "But Commander," the language. "It's English." Susan felt her heart skip a beat. "Put it through." The display changed. A human woman appeared on screen. Her uniform was similar to Susan's, but with unfamiliar insignia. Her expression was professional, but there was a hint of a smile on her lips. "This is Admiral Laura Peterson of the Earth Alliance vessel. Prometheus, responding to your distress call, Commander Reeves. We received your signal and came as quickly as possible. It seems you could use some assistance." Susan stared in shock. Earth Alliance, Prometheus. These were terms she did not recognize, but the woman was human, speaking English, commanding a fleet that dwarfed even the Krell armada. How Susan managed. The Admiral smiled. "We have much to discuss, Commander. But first let's deal with your Krell problem." The Prometheus has some experience with these particular reptiles. The communication ended and the tactical display showed the Earth fleet engaging the Krell. Their weapons were beyond anything Susan had seen. Energy beams that cut through Krell shields like they were paper missiles that tracked and destroyed multiple targets. The Krell fleet began to retreat, their formations breaking under the onslaught orc.